Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, guiding you through the trails of Glacier National Park with unique personal insight. As a reminder, Sarah and I met working in the park 20 years ago now and just spent a golden summer there hiking the trails, getting to know especially the west side. And now here we are much later. We've lived in Montana for a lot of those years, and we're the Hiking Fools. We're out there all the time. And today we're discussing a hike right around that Lake McDonald area where we first met. And we've been kind of settling in this region recently on our shows. And so hopefully you're getting the idea of there's a lot around here and a lot of choices. But Lincoln Lake is the hike that we're describing and guiding you through today. It's a couple of miles. Trailhead's a couple of miles west of the lodge. You get to it before Lake McDonald Lodge, right?
Yeah, it's 9 miles in from the west entrance and about 1.5 miles from Lake McDonald Lodge.
Okay, so it's right around that same area. The Sperry Trailhead is there. The Johns Lake Loop is there. You could stop at the lodge, check out the lake. It's funny, we had a lot of questions back in the day. Where's the lake? And boy, it's right there. It's 10 miles long. It's a mile plus wide. And there it is. You go through the lodge or just down below the lodge and there's the lake. And you can take a boat trip tour on the De Smet, and there's a lot of things to do right around there. Take a jammer bus, the famous red bus tours.
All right, back it up, Kroll. We got to focus on the trail.
Well, there's so much to do. We are hiking Lincoln Lake today.
It's so exciting. We love this valley.
Absolutely.
And it's awesome to talk about. And I think we'll put something out there a little later on, the different lodges and the history and stuff, because there definitely is a lot to talk about, especially on the west side. But let's get to the trail. So the parking area, it kind of comes up quickly, the trailhead, and it allows for maybe 4 to 5 vehicles there. And it doesn't really give you a lot of time to warm up. So I like a good warm up, just a gradual incline, maybe a little level. This does not give you that. So just to warn you, we are labeling this trail strenuous, and for good reason.
I would think so. Yeah, the trail is 16 miles round trip, and 2,300 feet of elevation gain thereabouts, and then you come back. It's a little up and down up over Snyder Ridge, and so yeah, it's we kind of think a lot of trails that we discuss have a couple thousand feet of elevation, but when you get over 15 to 20 miles round trip, that's a fairly strenuous hike. Takes all day usually, and this is one of those.
Yeah, and when you're coming back up from the lake, it's about 800 feet elevation gain. So after hiking already 8+ miles and you come back up that, so we're labeling this strenuous. And the first 1.5 miles is probably the worst.
The best.
I would say it's the most difficult.
That's right.
I shouldn't say it's the worst. It's the most difficult because it is almost straight up. It's just getting up on Snyder Ridge is a beast. But that first beginning area too is that we still have the remaining of that lush inland rainforest. It's still present there. It did not get burned, so a fire came through in 2017. We'll talk about that later. So the beginning of the trail is very lush and thick and perfect black bear habitat. We did not see bears the time that we went. We didn't see deer either. Perfect place for mule deer. The beginning, even though it's steep, it's really, really beautiful. The smells just, suck them right in. All the trees and the oxygen that's swirling around in there.
Yeah, breathe it in deep, and you will be breathing deep at the 1,200 feet of elevation or 2,000 feet of elevation over like 1.5 miles. So you'll get up there one step after the other, and it starts out right away from the trailhead. And I will say, it's not that popular of a hike in Glacier. Actually, this is, I think, the first hike in the history of our hiking where we did not see another person. We had one of our great friends, Alicia, with us, but other than that, we saw 0 people on this trail. I mean, we did it very late in the season.
Yeah, we did it in the fall, and where it's less busy in the park, obviously.
For sure. Yeah. It was sort of off season anyway, but we thought it was a good time to take this one in because later in the hike, it's pretty exposed with that burn area, so it was nice and cool for us. So there's, Glacier's open year round, and there's always something to do. And in this case, I think fall is a great time to hike Lincoln Lake.
So the top of Snyder Ridge, you're at about 5,000 feet, and then it kind of levels out for the most part for a little while there, and it's where you're starting to enter the 2017 fire. There's some scars around, obviously some burnt trees, and you can see some of the low vegetation kind of reforming. So it's kind of cool to see the transformation after a fire and how certain plants and certain vegetation kind of take advantage of that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
When they couldn't before, it was really, really thick and lush all the way pretty much to the lake. We never did hike it before the fire. So we're going from, friends who have hiked it and, what their accounts have been. And it was really, really thick. So in my opinion, after the fire came through, I feel like the views are way better. You got views of a lot of the mountain ranges around, and before it was really, really thick with vegetation and maybe a little bit buggy too, because you do drop down into a bit of some wetlands.
Yeah, a huge, a very dense forested area prior to the fire. Not anymore, but it was a common observance that, you just didn't see much until you got to the lake, 8 miles later. And so, it's maybe less popular for that reason, but a great hike, all the same, because you're hiking in Glacier Park and you're seeing different types of landscape as you go. And in this case, we down below, there's some magnificent looking meadows, perfect for wildlife. So take a look and make sure you keep your eyes open. There's a large expanse, things that you can see.
Yeah, and once you hit Snyder Ridge, you like I said, you slowly start dropping that 800 feet down into the wetlands and along Lincoln Creek. We had a lot of water crossing, and I have not hiked this in the summer. I imagine it gets pretty hot because of the exposure. There's not a lot of shade going through the burn, but it seems like you could find plenty of water to filter. So if you're not wanting to carry a ton, like I said, it's steep in the beginning, water can be heavy, but it is hot. But I think you will find plenty of places to filter water. You hike, once you drop down into that wetlands, you kind of parallel Lincoln Creek there. You also have the shoulder of Mount Jackson off to your right, and then you can see Lincoln Peak up ahead there too. But there's a lot of water around in there. We had a lot of water crossing. Not really, there was one little bridge. I don't know if they put some in later, but like I said, we went in the fall. It's possible they pulled some out, but you just kind of jump across the water, and there was some logs that you could walk across if you wanted to. So I imagine in the springtime, this is pretty gushing. So be prepared for that. Mm-hmm. A little mud. We did see some deer tracks. We didn't see any deer, but there's definitely wildlife around. So carry your bear spray.
Yep, and there's some down trees. The trail eventually probably be cleared, but you got to step over or duck under some trees along the way. So, it's a trail that requires a good amount of effort. And speaking of water, we've got to dial this in even a little better, Sarah, because again, I carried a liter for you, and we didn't even touch it. And so let's visit that just a little bit. In glacier hiking, filtering is a great option. You probably want to carry anywhere from 1 to 3 liters, whether it's in a reservoir or in bottles, and 3 liters is probably the max you want to carry around. But 2 to 6 miles, a liter should be enough in most conditions. 6 to 10 miles, maybe 1.5 liters or 2. And over that, a dozen miles up to 20, you're going to want to have about 3 liters of water. So it's when it's colder, you need less. If it's hot and you're sweating, then of course you need a little bit more.
Yeah, and yourself too. You know what kind of, how much water you normally drink. So just plan accordingly.
And in this case, in the burned area, it makes for a very different hike in miles 3 to 8. Because you're very much exposed. And you'll see, if you've never been, in a forested area that has been affected by a wildfire, you'll see. I mean, it's beautiful, actually. The burned trees are a dark black, beacon, and then there's fresh, bright green vegetation underneath. And you have views, Sarah mentioned, of Mount Jackson and some of the others, around the Sperry Basin. And it's definitely worth it to make the trip. I mean, you're going to have to put in effort, but Lincoln Lake is a great hike.
Yeah, and we could see as far as some of the mountains in the southern sector along the Flathead Range and, the Belton Hills in the West Glacier area. So because of this burn, it's kind of opened up a lot of awesome views. And we got little teases. We could see Beaver Chief Falls at, the head wall of Lincoln Lake there. So we knew it was coming on several miles before we got there. So it was kind of a teaser. But you could see that, and that was kind of cool to know, like, okay, we're getting closer. This is a lot of miles, but we're getting closer.
We are getting closer. We have more to say, but speaking of teaser, we're going to take a short break, but stick with us. We've got another segment coming right up.
Ever notice how a good trail mix has all the right stuff? Nuts for energy, raisins for sweetness, chocolate because chocolate. At Freedom Bank, we've got the right mix too. Personalized service, smart solutions, and technology to bank from anywhere in the Flathead Valley or beyond. Proud sponsor of Hiking Fools, because life's better with good snacks and a great bank. Member FDIC.
Welcome back. We are so glad to have you here. We are the Hiking Fools, and today in this episode, we've been discussing Lincoln Lake, a hike in the Lake McDonald area. A strenuous hike, but beautiful. And Sarah is going to take us all the way to the lake and what you'll see.
Yeah, and let's just touch base on this fire. So the 2017 fire, it was kind of a hot, dry season, and in the Lincoln Creek drainage where we're at right now, there was a small little fire, probably lightning caused because there was quite a few of that year in this drainage. But in the adjacent drainage over in the Snyder Creek drainage, we have Sperry Chalet, and that's where the Sprague fire also erupted in 2017, the same month, around the same time. It was a bigger fire. It kind of a sad year. It did engulf the dormitory of Sperry Chalet. It's been now restored, thankfully. But these two fires kind of merged together. So the fire was kind of hovering on the Lincoln Ridge there, and they eventually did merge and kind of exploded. But yeah, so the fire in here is from 2017 and the one right next door around the same time. So it'd be kind of neat to hike both of those drainages and kind of compare the regrowth that happened. So now we're at the lake, and we finally arrived. We've seen this lake from up high.
Finally.
We finally arrived. We have hiked the Gunsight Pass Trail numerous times, and 2 years ago, we were coming through, and we actually summited Lincoln Peak and looked down on this lake, and we thought, boy, we've never been there. We need to hike there. So we are here finally, and we've got not a bird's eye view, but an up close and personal. There is a backcountry campground there with three little sites with you got your typical food prep area, hanging pole, and there is a pit toilet there as well. So if you do arrive and you got some campers, make sure you are respectful to their space and, eat your food around the food prep area and stuff.
Yeah. Always cool people, though, camping, backcountry in Glacier. And yeah, just a couple of sites, so many backcountry campgrounds in Glacier National Park are limited. I mean, there's 4 to 5 sites sometimes. And so imagine, the up to 3 million visitors coming to Glacier, everybody out for a different adventure, a different type of exploration. But if you're looking backcountry, you need to plan ahead. And the best way to do that, depending on what time you're listening, March is the lottery to get in on those right away. And you're going to want to enter that lottery. Then you are selected and you're assigned a date to go in and plan your trip. And you want to put it together, whether it's a loop or an out and back. I mean, it takes a little planning, and sometimes you have to adapt because exactly the order of campsites that you were hoping for they're not available in the arrangement that you had hoped. So, when you're looking to go backcountry, remember the dates, look them up, and make sure you're ahead of the game so you get the exact trip that you would like. And I know arriving at the permit office day of, if you're very flexible, those folks will put together a great trip for you depending on availability. So backcountry camping, backpacking in Glacier, super cool.
So it probably didn't cross your mind, but as I was slogging up Snyder Ridge, I kept thinking, boy, imagine having a big overnight backpacking stuff on. That would just be not enjoyable for me, but maybe for some, and you would have been fine, I'm sure. But yeah, it is a place where you could come in. It's very secluded, not a lot of people, as Josh said. It's not a very popular place. So if you want to get away from people, this is the hike for you, and maybe a backcountry site for you as well. But the water is beautiful, as usual. It's crystal clear, and we hung out there along the shore and watched, Beaver Chief Falls. It's one of the higher waterfalls in the park, and it kind of cascades down over the head wall there at the lake, and it's coming out of Lake Ellen Wilson. We got a couple of hanging valleys there, and one of the highest sections where the water falls is around 500 feet. So.
Yeah, at one time. Yeah, the lake is small. The waterfall is huge because it falls, over 1,300 feet, and it's amazing. And we even saw this late fall, and so I'm sure in the spring it is even more impressive.
Yeah, the lake is at about 4,500 feet. It's a little cirque lake, and Gunsight Pass Trail kind of passes around Lake Ellen Wilson, which is just above there, which is feeding the falls.
Mm-hmm. For those that don't know, a cirque. What is a cirque?
A cirque is just a valley where a glacier has sat. It's kind of a little circular area, and it's in a depression, I guess, where glaciers used to sit. And Lake Ellen Wilson, that would be considered a hanging valley. So it's a little more prominent than where Lincoln Lake is, but they both used to have a glacier there, and they were probably at one point one giant one, and they've merged. So that would be considered a compound cirque because they're adjacent to each other and kind of smushed together there. You could also call it a cirque complex. But as we were at the lake, we were kind of looking at the head wall there. The cliffs are right around the falls and all throughout there, and we spotted these little tiny white bits of movement. Mm-hmm. So of course they're mountain goats, and we didn't have our binoculars, but we could zoom in a little bit, and we spotted about 9 of them, to the left of the falls, to the right of the falls. They had their own little area, perfect place to be hidden away from, predators and stuff. So it was kind of a treat to sit there and watch them. They're all fuzzied out this time of year, in their winter coat.
Yeah, it's hard to get the perspective. You're looking at these huge head walls and waterfalls and, shoulders of giant mountains. And then you just got to kind of focus your eyes and look for tiny little movement. I mean, that's the best way to do it. It's hard to tell how big an animal is going to be, depending on how far away you are from the cliff. But a mountain goat is just a tiny little white, kind of creamy looking spot. And if you focus your eyes and watch for movement, that's a good way to spot wildlife from a distance.
Yeah, and this time of year in the fall and the winter, they kind of drop elevation a little bit. So normally they're up a little bit higher. So if you're hiking the Gunsight Pass Trail and you're going around Lake Ellen Wilson, right around Gunsight Pass, there's usually a lot of mountain goats. So they've kind of dropped a little bit. We had snow on some of the higher peaks around. You could see the face of Mount Jackson, which is, of course, a 10,000 footer, one of the 6 in the park. And so these goats have dropped a little bit, kind of to get out of the snow and find, some minerals to lick and some vegetation to chaw on. So they are adapting to the changing weather. So we sat there for a while watching the goats, and then, the lake was really, really calm and the water's clear. And then as we sat there, a little breeze picked up and it was kind of catching the snow.
Mm-hmm. Great place for reflection, in a couple of ways. We talked about this. When you're in Glacier, you're back in there, these lakes, the reflections are, amazing. And it's a good time and a place to reflect yourself, what you're experiencing, where you came from, what's all around you, and just reflect on the place that you are and respect it.
Yeah, when I'm in the woods, I love to open up all my senses. The smells. I kind of tune into anything that comes at me, to tickle my senses. So, just enjoy it. It's a long hike, but it's, coming back, you got views of Lake McDonald down below and some of the further ridges, Apgar Lookout and stuff. So the views are great. It's a long day, so just plan accordingly.
Yeah, when you head back from the lake, you still got a lot of times a glacier hike is, up and steep toward your destination, and then you come back and it's all downhill from here. But in this case, you do have about 1,000 feet of elevation on the return trip. And so just, save a little in the tank. So again, we're in the Lake McDonald area, and Lincoln Lake, a great hike, a little less popular. Good distance, 16 miles round trip and a couple of 1,000 feet of elevation gain right at the start when you're heading out, a little bit, when you're coming back, but you run through lush kind of rainforesty areas with moss and wonderful trees, and then a beautiful lake and waterfall. I mean, what else could you ask for? It's a great hike in the off season, but not all that popular in the middle of the summer either. And there's just a few spots. Don't miss it. And it comes up right before Lake McDonald Lodge. So you've got a lot of options around this area, both for sightseeing and kind of touring around and hiking as well.
And when you're finished on this hike, you're probably going to come out a little bit sweaty. It was in the fall. We even did too. But you've got Lake McDonald right there. Go in and take a dip.
Absolutely.
There's so many pull-offs that are just beautiful along this lake. There's not one right there at the trailhead, and it actually pretty far above the lake where you come out at the trailhead. So get in your car and just drive, a quarter mile down the road, either direction, and there's a pull-off, and take a dip, enjoy the views around Lake McDonald, and consider that a special treat. Go have some ice cream in Apgar Village at Eddie's.
For sure. Yeah.
Sounds like an awesome day.
It does. Yeah, the swimming in Glacier is so cool. These lakes have been carved so deeply. They're so the edges are so extreme that you walk a few feet, a few yards in, and you can just dive, and it's cold. So prepare yourself. What a wonderful hike. Sarah and I have loved sharing this with you. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about Lincoln Lake. And we are the Hiking Fools. Check out our Instagram page at HikingFoolsMT to see some great photos from our recent adventures and things that we're doing. Some great captures from deep in Glacier Park. And tune in next time. Check out more episodes online, and remember to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go